Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the new screensavers is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com. The new screensavers is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully, so you be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/NSS.
Should you delete Facebook, the first Windows 10 ARM PC, and getting TV on your Mac? Live from the Twit Eastside Studios in beautiful Petaluma, it's the new screensavers. Woo!
All the cool kids are doing that, riding segways around like that. We might have to update that pretty soon. Right. Welcome to the new Screensavers, episode 149, March 24th, 2018. I'm Leo Laporte.
And today's Jason is me, Jason Snell.
We only let Jasons host the show. Yeah. You are obviously ready for baseball.
Yeah, little Giants orange and black here
like it.
Today, I thought. I don't know.
Season starts this week. It's so fast.
That's right.
It seems
all of the computer nerds have just turned off the show because we mentioned sports.
Sport ball. Jason
ball.
Snell from sixcolors.com, host of the incomparable. You now have how many shows on Relay?
It's a number that cannot even be counted. It's like a half a dozen shows in total. It's good.
Great.
It's good. This is my job now.
Full-time podcaster.
Yeah, well, I still write, but
That'll never work.
More than half of my job is podcasting.
Can't do it. No.
Yeah, no, it's a fad.
Coming up on today's show, of course, the big news, Facebook and Cambridge Analytica. We thought we'd get an expert on here, a guy who hasn't been on Facebook in 10 years. Corey Doctorow will join us in a little bit to talk about the hazards of sharing too much.
That's the perfect person for that. Megan Morrone talked to, I don't know if you know this, she talked to the master of the mainframe.
What?
Yeah, you'll find out who she is, but she mastered the mainframe this century.
It's amazing.
It's true.
I have a new laptop I do pretty much every week. This one is the HP Envy, and it's remarkable for one reason only. It's not an Intel machine. It's running on ARM, a Snapdragon. We'll talk about that. I've got my review coming up in just a little bit.
And in Call for Help, I am going to help somebody watch television, which I'm really good at. They're going to do it over the air using a Mac.
I need a new show. Maybe you can help me.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Anything I should be watching?
You should watch Counterpart on Stars. It's
Haven't
fantastic,
seen it.
spectacular.
Haven't seen it. All right,
watch
there
that
you go.
one.
See? He's great.
I got it.
But first, we should talk about the top stories of the week. We'll talk about Cambridge Analytica and Facebook in just a little second. But first, I've got to talk about Congress. I've been saying they're the do-nothing Congress, and they have actually been very busy. And I'm sure Corey will have something choice to say about this. They passed FOSTA and SESTA, which is a bill that effectively eliminates Section 230 of the Communications
Decency Act, right?
I almost hate saying the word decency.
It's the safe harbor provision for sex trafficking in this case.
Well, they say sex trafficking, but it's everything.
Arguably, it could be for everything.
Yeah, what it basically protected you on your blog comments and you on your whatever comments you have, and Reddit and a lot of other sites.
The idea is if I host a big site and you come in and post something that's illegal,
are you liable?
I'm not liable because of the safe harbor provision.
You're liable now, my friend. The safe harbor has been eliminated. Now, we'll see if the courts narrow it down to the intent of Congress, which is sex trafficking only. And I'm all for, I'm not all for sex trafficking. I'm all for eliminating sex trafficking. Whew. But it does have really a chilling effect on all kinds of posting. In fact, I've seen Craigslist personals, some subreddits on Reddit have gone.
Yeah.
Because Reddit does not want to be responsible, right?
And there's some websites that were frequented by sex workers that have shut down, and I've heard people who work with them say that this is discriminatory
it's
against
dangerous
them too,
for them.
Because that was the one way they could be contacted and maybe help improve their lives or change their lives for the better, and they've
put them on the streets. That's not
shut
good.
It down. Yeah.
All right. There's also the Cloud Act that was now passed by the
Who doesn't love
sounds
clouds?
nice. Sounds puffy. In fact, many of the big
pro
internet
cloud.
companies, including Microsoft and Google, were in favor of the Cloud Act. This, I like how Motherboard calls it, garbage surveillance legislation.
Are they watching our garbage? I don't think that's what they mean.
Is part of the budget bill, which it's a rider, which means it's going to end up, it already, I guess, has been signed into law.
Into law, yeah.
This allows big data companies to basically hand over your data directly without a warrant.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
Who
good.
needs...
And Cloud Act is not the word cloud. It's an acronym. It's a backronym. It's one of these asinine.
Stands for, what does it stand for? Do we know?
Cleverly lousing around uploads and downloads.
It's really got some really severe problems. There's the EFF's article on the Cloud Act. You might want to read that because I take it it's law. I don't know. I know that the Budget Act did pass and was signed into law. So the reason Microsoft and others wanted this is they said, well, better for us if the law says we have to hand over your data than all of these warrants that we would have to pretend to fight. It's better we just give it to them, and then life is simpler. They also passed a controversial legislation in the House that gives the U.S. more access to overseas data. So I thought it was a do-nothing Congress. I was kind of enjoying it. All of a sudden, they got busy.
Yeah, and the challenge with the omnibus
this was the
bills.
Cloud Act, okay.
Yeah, the challenge with some of these bills is that they all get rolled in together, and it becomes this thing where everybody's got
All these
something in
riders
it.
and these...
And you even saw it when it went to the president, and he said, "I don't want to sign it," and he signed it anyway because it was just sort of like everybody had a little piece, and nobody really knows what's in it.
Oh, look who's here, Cory Doctorow.
Oh my!
You want to say something? I can tell. What do you want to say,
Your
Cory?
producer was like, if you want to weigh in here, I'm going to make your mic hot. So, also my life hot. So one of the things that's remarkable about the Cloud Act is how little scrutiny it had. So it was floated as a possibility. People sent thousands of letters and emails and phone calls to their lawmakers saying this seems like a really bad idea, because basically what we're saying is that data stored on U.S. servers can be turned over in accord with the most privacy ignoring laws in the world. You can choose your jurisdiction. You can go to Saudi Arabia or Syria or wherever, and you can get your warrant to search there or file your request there, and they'll turn over data that's stored on U.S. servers. It was never marked up. It was never debated. It was never costed by the GAO. It was never subjected to even the most minimal scrutiny. It was just shoved into the budget bill literally as it was passing in the dead of night.
And it's now the law, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Cory. I must have misunderstood you. Did you say that now any foreign government could ask for information about a U.S. citizen and get it without a warrant?
They can request data on nationals from their own country about conversations those nationals are engaged with.
But guess who they're talking to?
That's right. And so, it's like, I think that there's a good rule of thumb here, which is that laws are not made in secret because the lawmakers want you to be pleasantly surprised, right? They're only made in secret because they know that you're going to get really pissed if you find out what they're doing.
So do we know who did this? Who stuck it into the budget bill, or is it just kind of that's also clouded?
I don't know.
I'm looking. I can't see it. It's buried in secrecy.
Well, it looks like it was introduced by Senators Hatch, Graham, Coons, and Whitehouse.
My favorite fellas.
And just for the record, it stands for the Clarifying Overseas Use of Data. Sounds innocuous. Cloud.
What could be wrong with
What could be bad
cloud?
about a cloud?
And Sesta FOSTA is not. Is that law now? I think it is.
I believe so.
House and
waiting
Senate.
for the president's signature.
Trump has to sign it. What a world, Cory. And I didn't even bring you on to talk about that.
No, and I think that there's like an important point about FOSTA and SESTA is the point of the safe harbor is to avoid the situation in which platforms develop a kind of itchy trigger finger.
Yeah, they want to protect themselves.
Yeah. If you say to them, if even unwittingly someone posts something illegal to your service, then you're liable for it. Even if you don't know about it, you're liable for it. You have a duty to know all the things people say and review them to determine whether they're legal or not. And especially when they are in these gray zones, like what's trafficking that's related to or traffic that's related to sexual trafficking. that can cover a lot of ground. As you saw, Craigslist shut down their whole personals section because they
why take a
they
chance?
Can't tell.
Yeah.
What if someone goes on a date and then it turns out that the date has got a price tag attached to it? So then what you just end up with is these hair trigger moderators and this hair trigger content management, where people just become really invasive about what they'll allow and very restrictive about what they'll allow.
I honestly can't blame them, because you don't know what you're liable for.
Yeah, and the net result is not that certain things get picked off. The net result is that the people who are hosting these services just walk away, and that kind of conversation is just pushed out of the middle of the public square because they don't want to deal with it. This actually reminded me of the YouTube issues with like using music in something using fair use.
Right.
And the fact is, people don't do that anymore largely because their videos are going to get taken down by the copyright infringement police, and even if you have fair use on your side, you just decide, I'm not going to even bother, and then fair use dies because of that. And this is similar, because this is going to take legitimate conversation out of the town square just because it's adjacent to something that might be actionable.
Denise Howell, who is an IP attorney, is going to be in town tomorrow. We're going to do Twit with her. We'll talk to her also about the legal ramifications of this. But really, the reason we brought Corey here, well, first of all, because anytime Corey's willing to talk to me, I will talk to Corey. I love him. One of my favorite authors, and one of the smartest people I know, is to talk about this Facebook thing. Now, what standing do you have, Corey? You deleted Facebook 10 years ago.
Well, I guess I have the standing of an early adopter.
You were smart. I have deleted Facebook. There is a difference in deleting and deactivating.
Of course there is.
But with deletion, I have one more week. If I can keep from logging into Facebook for one more week, they say they'll delete my most of my whatever they can figure out is my data they'll delete. And I didn't do it because I'm worried about Facebook. I did it because I want to punish Facebook, frankly. But it's my contention that no matter what Mark Zuckerberg does, whatever he says on CNN, whatever apologies he makes, this is fundamentally Facebook's business, is collecting as much data about you as they can and selling it to advertisers and sometimes to people besides advertisers, like the Russian government. There's no way. Can Facebook fix this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm very worried. I'm very leery of falling into the trap that I think serves Facebook very well, of saying it is unimaginable that we could have a service like Facebook that didn't spy on you, right? Like that the two are like peanut butter and chocolate. Like you'll never get them apart. This idea of like talking to your friends and being spied on. Because I can imagine how you'd build a service like that. It's not like someone came down off a mountain with like 2 stone tablets that said, stop rotating your log files, start mining them for market intelligence, right? So I can imagine how that service might exist. And if you're looking for a reason to quit Facebook, one of them might be that if there's someone out there who's shopping for capital or for free software project contributors or for someone to help them work on a project that's Facebook without the spying, the fact that people are quitting Facebook in droves will help that person out. And, I'm actually a big believer that among the ways that we change the world is by writing code. People have observed during this time of the techlash that there are unaccountable engineers who write software without a thought of the ethics to it and then affect the lives of billions of people. And so now we have accountable engineers who want to write software, who are thinking about ethics, and they can affect the lives of billions of people for the better, in the same way that people who write ad blockers help people who want to look at the web without being spied on do that and push back against invasive surveillance advertising. You could imagine someone fielding a service like Facebook that could even help you bridge the gap between Facebook and the rest of the world, or Facebook and some new service, by, say, logging into Facebook on your behalf using a little autopilot script, grabbing all the messages waiting for you, bringing them into the new service. Ooh. That's what Facebook did. They had a tool like that for MySpace when they launched.
Right.
Now, Facebook has subsequently sued a competitor of theirs for doing exactly that, for writing a little tool that lets Facebook users automatically send messages to their friends saying, help me stop using Facebook. But, I do think that, part of the answer is going to be writing good code. Part of the answer to bad code is always going to be writing good code. It's not the whole answer, but it's certainly an answer that I think people who are watching your show are able to engage with in ways that maybe the wider world can't.
One of the things that concerns me about this is that this sort of thing leads to lawmakers, to politicians saying, what we need is more laws about this. And what we just have said is, it turns out those laws that they generate end up doing more harm than good.
Although
That's
Zuck's
one of my
even
worries
said,
here.
basically, regulate me.
Stop
me. Stop me before I kill again.
That's right. I can't help myself. Yeah. This is the whole core problem, right? Is that this is Facebook's business model, and not the third-party part, but the first-party part. And that's why they kind of don't want anyone talking about it, because once you start to think about it, you realize that you're the product of this service.
Corey Gargron of Mastodon did a Medium post saying, "Hey, we're open source. We don't mind data. You could join us." What do you use something instead of Facebook that you feel like is better?
I use Twitter, and I kind of feel like there's this 2x2 grid that I use when I think about new technologies that I might become accustomed to or make part of my daily life. And so on the one axis is like control freakery, like how free are you when you use the service? How much do they care about controlling everything you do? So like very control freaky would be Apple, not very control freaky would be, say, Google, right? And then on the other axis, you have how spying are they? And so over here, we don't care what you're doing. And over here, as we watch everything you do and we're super creepy. And, you know, on this axis might be like GNU Linux. And on this end is, say, Facebook and Google.
Right.
Facebook is at the top of both, right? Facebook wants to control every single thing you do, and they want to spy on everything you do. They want the whole web to disappear inside of Facebook, and they want to spy on you while you use it. Apple wants the whole web to disappear inside of Apple. But they're not going to spy on you while you use it. They're just going to control you while you use it. Google has figured out how to spy on you wherever the web is. And so they don't care if the whole web lands inside of Google. So long as it doesn't land inside of Facebook and Apple, they're fine because they can spy on you everywhere.
To some degree, that's the Facebook problem, too. Even if you don't have a Facebook account, Facebook still gathers information about you with its like buttons everywhere.
Yeah, and you know, I have an ad blocker, but I figured out a long time ago that there are a bunch of websites I didn't want to accidentally click on links to. And so I run a Ubuntu, and it's got a host file, Etsy hosts.
Yeah.
And so I just went in there and I mapped all of the websites I never want to see again, like Daily Mail and Facebook and Instagram, to 0.0.0.0.
Would you share that hosts list? Do you post that anywhere on your blog or something?
I guess I should. I mean, it's literally like 7 websites I hate, right?
You can probably think of what they might be, I guess.
Yeah,
You've given us a few to start. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. That way you can't see them. They're just gone.
Is the GDPR stuff in Europe a step in the right direction? Again, it's regulation. Is that helpful to users, or is that just going to be toothless?
No, I think it will be. I mean, it's not like perfect by any means. And part of the problem is that the cost of compliance is going to be relatively high. And so it's going to favor incumbents. It's going to favor people who can build out like a bunch of compliance software and have a compliance department. And you know, it's the kind of thing that Facebook 2018 could do, but maybe Facebook 2008 couldn't have afforded. And the problem is that the competitor to Facebook 2008 looks a lot, or 2018 rather, looks a lot more like Facebook 2008 in terms of its resources than Facebook 2018. And this is the real problem with regulation, is not that there isn't such a thing as good regulation, but that the only people who get a seat at the table during regulation, generally speaking, are the companies that are about to be regulated, not the companies that don't exist yet. And the companies that are about to be regulated, they want to be sure that whatever the regulation is, that it's not going to destroy their business model. It can hurt their business model, but they have to be able to stay in business. It's very hard for a regulator to have the guts to say to a company, your business is just illegitimate, right? Like, I know that you're in the storing oily rags in people's garages business, and that is like unsafe no matter what, but we're going to come up with like a minimum set of sprinkler heads you're going to need, because we're just not going to tell the billion-dollar oily rags in people's garages industry that it's time for you to go away. Eventually they do, right? Like eventually they say, sorry, you can't sell thalidomide anymore. Those radium suppositories have got to go.
But nobody's going to put Equifax out of business.
Yeah, nobody's going to put Equifax out of business. And so the risk is that regulators are only going to take account of the needs of the and parameters of the businesses that exist, which may just create a kind of moat around them that all their competitors that come up in the future won't be able to get across. And And that's the kind of the poison pill of regulation. Now, with the GDPR, I think there's something else going on. So the really interesting dynamic, I think, of the GDPR is it's a kind of quiet trade war. You know, there are American elements who froth at the mouth and talk about how this is just Europe punishing American companies. I think to a certain extent, it really is Europe punishing American companies, right? But for that reason, I think it's actually got some teeth in it in a way that a regulation that was merely about like satisfying what, you know, the syllogism, something must be done. Hey, look, we just did something. Job's over, right? That this is like, this actually gets to some real meaty stuff that does, you know, look a lot more like maybe we should stop storing oily rags in everyone's garages and not like, let's count how many fire extinguishers you need when you're going to store oily rags everywhere.
I really like what you're saying, and I think that I think maybe this is something we can really start to promote, which is the people who watch this network, the people who are geeks, the people who are coders. This is our chance to step up and say, what about ethical coders? What about ethical software? What about doing it ourselves instead of trying to regulate it? This is a chance to step up. I really like that message, Corey. I hope that that's...
Well, I think it's and not or and not XOR, right? That we probably do need good rules. Like, you know, I think a rule that said you can't force users into binding arbitration for losses due to privacy breaches. So, you know, that would go a long way, yeah. You know, because like imagine, so right now we have this kind of like distributed Monte Carlo sim attack against data breaches where like you have all these contingency, no win, no fee lawyers who show up in court against companies that have done horrific damage to their customers that is hard to quantify because it's 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, someone will merge this lost data set and that lost data set and make something really harmful to the users. And they're going before judge after judge after judge, trying to make these companies internalize the whole cost of recklessly storing all our oily rags in their garage. And eventually, like, one of them is going to get to it, right? One of them is going to go, look, this is the breach that is going to be used to forge duplicate deeds by identity thieves to the houses of 1% of the people in this breach, and they're all going to have their houses stolen from them. So the correct remedy here is 1% of the total real estate holdings of the 80 million people or 50 million people in this breach, right? Eventually, some judge is going to gavel down that number. Some jury is going to award that number. And then all the insurers, all the reinsurers, they're going to turn around and they're going to go to the boards of directors and they're going to say, explain to me the cost benefit of you storing this data and why we should trust that you aren't going to land us in the position of writing $1 billion check for your liability. So that's a law that like we can imagine that just says in like the most foundationally fair way, companies shouldn't be able to say, by being dumb enough to be our customer, you waive all our legal rights. If we get that into law, we get a whole bunch more potential legal action down the road that would discipline firms and force them to be mindful of our private data, to only collect the data they need, only store it for as long as it's useful, to not speculatively warehouse data, to not share data recklessly. And that's a legal thing we could do. And it also invokes markets because it changes their profit and loss. And that's a thing that companies really are attuned to. You know, they may not care about ethics all the time, but they certainly watch their bottom lines. And it also starts to change the norms, right? That it starts to change what looks like the right way to design a service, what looks like the right way to use a service, so that when people show up at a service and the first thing you need to do in order to be onboarded is agree to sign away all your legal rights or agree to be spied on or give up your address book, people don't go, oh yeah, no, that's the thing that all the services do. I guess that's okay. They go, oh my God, that looks so shady. I'm not signing up for this service. And that's what Larry Lessig says. He says the world is regulated by 4 forces. You've got code, law, norms, and markets. You know, what's legal, what's technically possible, what's ethically, what's considered ethical, and what's profitable. And by moving the needle on all of those things, we start to affect change. Now, I think the people watching this show, they're probably better at the code than everything else. But I bet you guys have got a really good look at norms too, because I bet you're the people who everyone in your life calls up and says, what's a good way to use technology? Yeah. Is it okay that I'm using it this way? I think it's time we stop going, it'll all be fine. And we start saying, actually, maybe you should think twice about this.
Yeah. And I'm going to add that third part too, law, because I think a lot of geeks kind of say, I don't want to have anything to do with government. I'm not going to vote. I don't want to be political. It's just a mess. It's disgusting. I don't like the process. And maybe it's time that we also step forward and let's get law involved here. And that's a simple change, just to get a law that says you're not forced into arbitration, that you can sue if your privacy has been breached by poor behavior by a company. That's a simple thing. We could sneak that one in under the radar at least, right?
Oh, maybe. I think that's the kind of thing that tends to not get stuck in as a writer at the last minute.
Yeah.
But it is the kind of thing that, like, you know, we're headed in for a super contested midterm election in which there's going to be massive turnover in Congress. And candidates are looking for issues they can differentiate themselves on. I don't think there's like anyone in America who woke up this morning and said, I wish that I had to give up more of my legal rights in order to conduct my daily round.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad that when I see my doctor, I have to sign a piece of paper that says I can't sue them if they kill me.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
Really, good point. I love that. When are you running for Congress, Corey? I'll vote for you.
Well, one, I'm
Canadian.
I'm here on my green card. Two, I'm much better outside the tent pissing in than inside the tent pissing out.
Well, I'm definitely going to move to Massachusetts and vote for Brianna Wu, and I'm thinking if we get more geeks running, people understand this issue, and more geeks involved and voting and really pushing the issues they care about. This is something we can fix. You've given me great hope. Everybody should go to craphound.com. That's where you can get Corey's books. The latest, Walkaway, is a page burner. Really a fabulous, fabulous novel. We talked to Corey on Triangulation when it came out about a year. It's been a year. I can't believe it.
And
yeah,
yes,
that's right.
That's right. You're looking at books being sold on the author's website without DRM.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, and no license agreement. So the only agreement is don't violate copyright law. It's the same as every book you've ever bought.
And
There's
I
also
love
a super cool audio. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say you're doing your own audio versions, which is fantastic.
Yeah, Will Wheaton, Amber Benson, Amanda Palmer, and a cast of thousands read Walkaway, and they did such a good job. It's great.
And you can get all of that at Corey's website, craphound.com. Corey, thank you so much. Thanks for being Corey.
Thanks.
Yeah,
all
really
right,
appreciate
nice talking to you.
The great Cory Doctorow, and everybody should read his books because he's a great writer as well. I mean, you can see his verbal dexterity is second to none.
If you've got a teenager or young adult who's interested in these issues, have them read Little Brother.
Little Brother is so good, and there's a sequel to Little Brother out too. That is so good. If you want to know more about, information doesn't want to be free. He's got a great book. It's funny, I told him this story on content that my daughter gave me. She said, this is a pretty good book. I said, yeah, I've heard of it. It's Corey, what's his last name? Doke? I've heard of him.
Canadian fellow.
Yeah, Canadian fella. Anyway, absolutely the best. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Corey. We're going to talk to a science student, who mastered the mainframe.
Mainframe master.
Megan Morrone's got the first IBM master of the mainframe coming up in just a little bit. But first, a word from our sponsor. It's time to buy a new house, perhaps. I know for a lot of us, it's time to refi. Interest rates definitely are going up. They're going to go up. Maybe you want to lock in a good interest rate right now. Let me tell you where to go. Not to the bank. A lot of people put on a tie, nice dress. They go in, they say, please, may I have some money, Mr. Banker person? And he'll give you a 20-page application. You have to go home and look stuff up, and you have to go to the attic and get paperwork. And then they say, oh, well, that's great, but can you fax us your pay stubs from 2010? What? I don't have a fax machine. Let me tell you. This is the best way that we're bringing the mortgage process in the 21st century from Quicken Loans, the best lender in the country, #1 in customer satisfaction, year after year. They're now the biggest, too, and I think that's testament to how popular they are. And I really think some of this comes from Rocket Mortgage. This is their fully online mortgage approval process. You'll find it at rocketmortgage.com/NSS. Literally, you don't have to go to the bank. You can literally answer a few questions off the top of your head, pull in that application. Because they have relationships with all the financial institutions, you just give them permission. They'll pull your stuff, they'll crunch the numbers, and then, based on income, assets, and credit, they'll analyze all the home loan options for which you qualify and find the one that's just right for you. And that whole process took less time than filling out the application in the bank. About 8 minutes. You could do it at an open house. You could be, I like this house. Jason, let's buy this house.
Let
me
do it.
Just get a loan here real quick. RocketMortgage.com/NSS. RocketMortgage.com/NSS. They're an equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage so much for their support of the new screensavers. I'm going to review this. It's a pretty package, and I'm going to ask you why Apple doesn't make anything like this.
I've got a theory.
But first, Megan Morrone with the Master the Mainframe winner.
Master the Mainframe, a student coding competition sponsored by IBM, just finished its 13th year, and I am excited to talk to Anna McKee, a 22-year-old student at University of North Texas, and Meredith Stowell, Director of Community Advocacy and Academic Initiatives at IBM. I'll talk to Meredith first. Thanks for talking to us, Meredith.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
So tell us a little bit about Master the Mainframe, the competition.
All right. So Master the Mainframe is a challenge-based contest. It has 3 different parts. Each of the parts gets progressively more difficult. So the students go through, they complete about 33 challenges. And at the very end on part 3, they have a larger real-world challenge that they need to complete, and utilizing all of the learning that they learned that they used in part 1 and part 2. The great thing about this contest is that there is no experience required. So part 1 really teaches you just the basics. Part 2 just kind of takes you through the challenges so that you can get to know the technology, get to learn it. And part 3 is when you really put that technology to work for a real business challenge.
So what are some of the things that students can take away from this competition, those involved in it?
So I think that what's unique about this competition versus some of the other competitions is this really does introduce students, whether they're 13 years old or whether they're graduate students. It introduces them to enterprise IT, and more importantly, because of the way that it's organized and formulated as a challenge-based contest, it allows you to learn. And the reason we would love for you to learn the mainframe and love not just blockchain and Java and Node and everything else that's running on the mainframe, but more importantly, learn some of those traditional technologies as well that are still running on the mainframe and will continue to run on the mainframe, so that you can get a job. Because that's one of the greatest things about Master the Mainframe is many of our clients and our partners are employers, and they're looking for these skills out in the job market, and they're looking for individuals, and they typically come to the Master the Mainframe to find those participants. They're constantly talking to us. How can I get involved, and how can I get connected with those Master the Mainframe participants? Because we want to onboard them as interns. We want to onboard them for jobs.
Well, so where can people find out more information, whether it's employers looking for candidates, job candidates, or people looking to participate, kids looking to participate? Where can they find out more?
I would send them to masterthemainframe.com. That's where you can click the button if you're interested in participating in 2018. Go ahead and pre-register, and we'll contact you when it opens. And then you can also see all of our winners and be connected back to other information about Master the Mainframe.
And what about IBM's other education initiatives? Where can people find out about that?
We have a specific site, ibm.biz/zskills, which talks about all of the different training that's available for students. It also talks about all of the different resources that are available to faculty members and educators around the world so that they can teach this technology. And then we also have resources available for employers for those that want to employ these skills that are being built. So ibm.biz/zskills.
I am excited to talk to Anna McKee. She is the 22-year-old student and the winner of the IBM Master the Mainframe competition. There were a lot of people that she competed against. And thanks so much for talking to us, Anna.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit about how you prepared for the coding competition.
I was prepared by taking actually 2 mainframe courses my school provided, and I also had an internship in mainframe development. So I think having those skills really helped me be able to be successful in the contest.
So the internship in mainframe development, was that, I also read that you had an internship in cybersecurity. Was that the same, or were those 2 different internships?
No, they were They were two different internships, yes.
Tell us about the cybersecurity internship. That's a big field right now.
Yeah, so I worked in the third-party information security and assessments group, and what I essentially did in my internship was create an internal scorecard for my team that showed regulations of the companies to, I guess, regulate the security standards.
And how did you get interested in this kind of work? It's not often that, when I was a little girl, I didn't think, gosh, I want to get involved in cybersecurity. But there must have been something that that impelled you toward this work. Talk a little bit about that.
Honestly, I never had a moment like that. I didn't really know I wanted to do technology until my sophomore year of college. I got out of high school and I just really didn't know what I wanted to do. All I knew is that I had a strong background in math and music, and my parents, they would always tell me, musicians and mathematicians make great software developers. I would never listen to them. I was, I guess, a teenager. But then I went away for college, and I never really found my passion. I didn't, find what I wanted to do. So I came home, I went to the local junior college, and I just took classes that I could potentially be interested in. And my mom actually encouraged me to take a coding course in C++. And so I did. And that's where I really started to, I guess, find my passion. And, after my C++ course, I took a Java course. And I think that's really what sealed me wanting to do technology.
Moms are the best, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
So that's fascinating. Now tell us, what kind of music do you play? What kind of instruments do you play?
So in high school, I was a part of the drum line. So I just played various percussion instruments. I played the snare for a couple years in marching band, and I played in the front ensemble with marimba for a couple years. And now that I'm in college, I kind of lost my music ability. But I still like to get into it every now and then when I have time. So, that's piano or just playing around on the drums. So
awesome. And are you enjoying IBM Think so far?
I'm having a great time here. It's so exciting to be here with everyone. It's such an amazing opportunity, especially, getting to see this at such a young age before I get to enter the workforce. It's incredible.
So do you know what's next for you?
I do not. I know I have another year left of school. I would like to go on to get a master's in data analytics and then, maybe enter the corporate world.
So any advice for those kids like you were struggling, not knowing what they wanted to do? Do you have any advice for high schoolers, middle schoolers even, that might be interested in this field?
Just look at all various aspects of technology. It's such a broad field that, if you pick one thing and if you don't like it, there's a million other things that you can choose from and love them, potentially. So the advice I would get is just keep trying to find things that interest you, and keep trying to find things that, are geared toward your passions.
I'm sure you meant to say this, but also listen to your mother. Maybe that's some good advice.
Yes, yeah. Your mom, always.
Anna, thank you so much for taking the time out of the IBM Think Conference to talk to us. Anna McKee is a student at the University of North Texas and the first place winner in the Master the Mainframe contest that was designed to teach kids how to program IBM machines known as Big Iron. Thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much.
Well, all this time I thought, if I take programming courses, I can I should be on a drum line.
Yeah,
that's what I need to do.
The new mainframe masters are much younger than we are.
They're drummers, too.
They beat that mainframe like a drum.
Isn't that funny? Did you see one of the languages is COBOL?
We got to get a new generation of COBOL and Fortran.
No, we don't. Please, let's not.
Punch cards.
One of the reasons I got this new laptop is because I want something super portable.
Yeah, well.
Always connected with great battery life. And
Nailed it.
That's the promise of this. This is the HP Envy X2. Now, wait a minute. It's got Windows Hello on it, so I'm going to because I don't want to log in. So let me just see how fast that recognized me. Isn't that awesome? That's nice. The only fast thing this laptop will do.
Yeah. So this is the thing is you're making a trade. You get a computer like this.
Yeah.
The brilliance of it is it does have long battery life. It does have cellular included. It is super thin and light.
Yeah.
It is running on an ARM processor, so it's fundamentally going to be slower. Plus, if it's running stuff that isn't compiled for ARM,
that's the big issue.
It has to be emulated.
Yeah. So this is running on a Snapdragon 835, which isn't even the most recent Snapdragon. There's now 845s, and I think maybe Windows on ARM will be maybe a little bit more snappy when it comes out on a faster ARM processor, faster Snapdragon, but. There's some things HP really did nice. This is a beautiful display. They really did a nice job with the display. It's 3x2, which I like. It's 1280 no, I'm sorry. What would that be? 3x2. It's something by 1280. It's 2140 by 1280, I think is what it is. And color is fantastic. Brightness is very good. It actually, when it comes with Windows 10s and when it sticks with Windows 10s applications, like Microsoft Edge, it's actually fairly snappy. It's when you start using stuff besides Microsoft's Windows Store apps that it starts slowing down. Chrome, for instance. Let me launch something a little bit more rich than a text-based.
Is that because those just haven't been updated to take advantage of this? Is there going to be a follow-on where stuff will get compiled for ARM and it'll work better?
I think you nailed it when you said it's running an emulation. There's a couple of limitations on this. It won't run 64-bit software at all.
Right.
Which means even Windows Store apps that are 64-bit, and there are some, won't run at all.
Right.
It means you can't do a lot of the things that you would like to do with a normal Windows machine. You can upgrade from Windows 10s to Windows 10 Pro. That means you can now download anything, including Chrome. But frankly, it is so sluggish with even 32-bit stuff that's not optimized that I feel like you might want to just stick with Windows 10s.
Well, so that's the big trade-off is you get all of these things, but you've got to make a break. And this is one of those things that Microsoft has traditionally been really afraid of, is saying, we're going to make a computer and an operating system that is not as compatible. Right. Apple's never cared about that, right? But Microsoft's always been worried. So in this case, I love that Microsoft's basically saying, well, really, this is for the core Windows experience with stuff that's been optimized for.
I think there are plenty of people who would be happy with that. Look, I'm running Netflix. Netflix runs great. The picture is stunning. It's HDR. I really feel like the sound is very good. It's got B&O sound, and it has Atmos. You can actually buy Atmos for headphones on here as well. Let me turn up the sound a little bit.
So it might not be for your average Twit viewer, let's say.
It's not for the geek. But there are some things it might be for the geek. So battery life, they're claiming 22 hours. I was getting, and Laptop Magazine kind of confirmed my thoughts about 15 hours, 15 or 16 hours. That's pretty fantastic.
That's fantastic.
That means I can charge it in the morning. I can take it with me. I can use it really heavily all day long, and it's still fine. LTE is great too on this. Now, I've seen reviews that said you have to have a Verizon SIM. That is not true. I'm using Google Fi, which is fairly reasonable, $10 a gigabyte. And so this works just fine. It identifies as a T-Mobile data SIM, but I'm happy with that. And it's very fast, by the way. When you're on a good LTE connection, which we get here in the studio and in Petaluma, this is really fast. It certainly feels like you're on Wi-Fi. Of course, it does have Wi-Fi. It comes with, for $9.99, this magnetic keyboard, a pen, which does a pretty good job. It's Type-C charging, which is something I think it has that's an advantage over Microsoft's similarly configured Surface Pro, because I can charge this with pretty much anything. So that makes it even more Road Warrior worthy. I don't have to carry along a special power adapter. It uses a special connector for the keyboard, which attaches well. The keyboard's one of those that folds up a bit. And actually, I like this keyboard better than the MacBook keyboard because it's got more travel for one of these keyboards.
Nice.
But it's backlit, but there is one negative. When you put the keyboard up, tented up like this, and you start typing, you're going to get some movement and give on there. It rattles a little bit.
Not great.
You may not like that, but frankly, I can live with it. I'm not going to be typing a novel on this. This isn't for my NaNoWriMo writing. I do like the fact that the kickstand is built into the case, not the actual tablet.
Not the device, that's good.
It makes the tablet lighter and thinner. It's 1.5 pounds. You add the case, it's 2.5 pounds. So that's pretty nice for a tablet. 12 megapixel back camera, fairly decent camera. Although, folks, please Don't take pictures of friends and family with your tablet.
That is a little ridiculous.
That's just disgusting. It also has a fairly good 5-megapixel front camera. I mean, spec-wise, this is pretty good. In fact,
as long as you don't want like
it's performance that
super
hits.
Speed.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things I was hoping I could do is I told you before off the air that I'm taking a MOOC, an online class in computer programming, and I was hoping I could put my computer programming environment on here and use it. I can. And I can use it. I just have to be very, very patient. There, I've launched it.
Okay.
I'll get back to you in about 10 minutes.
All right.
It's going to run any day now. It is 32-bit.
How much RAM is on this thing?
This has a limited amount of RAM. Now, I purchased this from the HP store. In fact, I think they sold out pretty quickly. And it has 4 gigs of RAM. Paul Thurrott got a review unit that has 8 gigs of RAM. That may make a big difference in performance. Also, 128 gig storage device. It's not, in fact, a very fast storage device. It's UFS, kind of like what you get in your smartphone.
Right.
Not super fast. There are a couple of things, though, that kind of make up for that 128 gigs. By the way, on my MacBook Pro, this launches in about 3 seconds.
Sure.
So that's just to give you some idea. It's still launching. We'll see a screen as soon as it's done launching. It's slow, but you keep it running, right? You keep it running all the time. Then you're okay.
Yeah,
compilation in this is a factor of maybe 15 times slower. I mean,
Sure.
it really is slow. So you're not going to buy this as a workhorse device. You're going to buy this because it's ultra portable. It's got great battery life. It has fairly fast LTE built in. And at $999, including the keyboard case and the pen, while that's expensive, it's still less than the Mix when you similarly equip it, or Surface Pro. So there's a lot to be said for the price.
Kind of in the ballpark of
it's very
of an
similar
iPad
to what
Pro.
you have. You're using an iPad Pro.
Yeah.
So this is a similar screen in size. It's a little bit smaller. It's 12.3 inches. You have
I have the 12.9.
12.9.
But most people have the 10.5, which is
right. It's bigger than that.
Yeah.
This is Gorilla Glass. It's 1920 by 1280. Let me get that right. It's got a 4G LTE modem, 802.11 AC, Bluetooth 5, which is kind of nice. It's got the latest Bluetooth, USB 3.1 Type-C. So you don't have Thunderbolt, but you wouldn't use Thunderbolt on a machine like this.
I got to say, I really like the idea that there are some people for whom battery life is way more important than processor speed, right? Most devices, including this one, are fast enough for what? 80% of what people use computers
More
for?
than fast enough. The one thing that really killed me was that Chrome is so pig slow on this. You really are going to end up using Microsoft Edge. You know what? It's not the world's worst browser. It's not the world's best.
And it's entirely possible that they will build a version of Chrome that runs
a little bit better
on
a little
this.
bit faster on this. You notice it didn't feel slow, the launching speed of Edge. The page came up pretty quickly. If I launch another page from this is on our Wi-Fi. We're not an LTE.
And
but
I'd
it's
imagine
pretty
something
quick.
like Microsoft Office runs perfectly.
Office runs great.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. It seems like Microsoft tuned their apps. They knew this was coming out.
Sure.
This is the first of a whole series of new computers running Windows on ARM. Again, it's running x86 in emulation.
Right. So those
only
are gonna take a
32-bit
hit.
now, although Microsoft says 64-bit is coming.
Gotta be.
It may even be, I wonder, a software upgrade, because if it's an emulator, that's just software. So it may not need specialized
Unless there's something
hardware.
strange about that Snapdragon, but you wouldn't think.
It's
So
possible.
do you think Microsoft will do an ARM, go back to doing an ARM Surface like they did with Windows RT? Or
Yeah, somebody said to me that you just bought a Windows RT machine. It's not. It's full Windows.
Yeah, that's the difference. Is
RT
that
is dead.
Right. This is the second cut on RT saying, look,
That's what I think.
we don't want to have a second-class citizen of Windows,
Yeah.
so it's going to be real
Right.
Windows. But
There are a couple of things you should be aware of that bit me. I was hoping I could run more software on it because I wanted to do some more geeky stuff. Like I wanted to put a command line on there so I could SSH to my server. I can't find one that runs in 32 bits, including Cygwin, and all requires 64-bit. That's kind of a problem. There may be some applications you run into that you expect to be able to use because they're in the Windows App Store that you won't be able to. But if your needs are simple, if you're the kind of person who uses Windows pretty much as is, especially if you use the Microsoft apps like Mail and Calendar and Contacts, Microsoft Office, Notepad, WordPad, Edge, this is actually a very competent machine. I bought it because I thought, well, I have 30 days to send it back. And I think I'm going to keep it. I think it's not my first computer, much like the iPad wouldn't be your main computer. It's an adjunct computer.
I travel with my iPad, and I look at this and I think, yeah, that's the kind of thing that I would travel with and leave my big computer at home.
So as long as you're aware of the performance problems, the limitations, and the kinds of software you can run, this is actually something I'm pretty happy to have. It'll be great for watching movies on the airplane. I'm flying to Japan in a month. I'll be able to watch the whole way on one charge.
That's right.
That's great. I'll be able to even do a little computing in the background if I want. I think that's pretty good. I think it's also very stylish. HP lately has done a great job in design. I love the new HP logo. I like it. The case has the kickstand. It's not built into the tablet itself.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a nice full aluminum body. Feels pretty good in the hand. In all in all, and when you carry it around, you kind of look like an executive. Doesn't it look like
I was going to say it's got a folio look.
I'm going to a
there.
meeting. I got my folio here with me. So in fact, this is the computer I take to meetings, right? This is what I use in my meetings now. So HP NVX2 starts at $999. That's the only configuration I could choose from, although because they're sending a 8 gigabyte version to Paul Thurrott for review with 256 gig storage, it's my suspicion that they're going to have other versions out there. But I frankly think this is fine. And by the way, I put a 128 gig micro SD card in here. It has an SD card slot. I use that for my documents folder. It's a little slower, but it's fine. So I have 256 gigs on this for a very small additional cost. This is probably the one I would get. I wouldn't necessarily, although, and I'll be interested to see what Paul's feelings are with the 8 gigs of RAM. That could conceivably speed up things like Chrome. Chrome's kind of a memory.
You do have to wonder, though, if you're making power user upgrades to a computer that is not for power users. Is that even worth it?
Yeah, this is just, this is the executive folio computer for taking the meetings. Yes, take a memo, Miss Schwartz. I'm very unhappy with the way the sidewalks outside our business are being maintained. That kind of thing. Anyway, HP NVX2, as long as you understand the limitations, I recommend it. I'm very happy with it. I think it's been kind of a nice, I kind of like having it around the house.
It's cool. I'm glad Microsoft decided to take the plunge with ARM again.
It'll be very interesting to see what they do going forward as ARM chips get faster. I would love to see an A11 Bionic in here. I mean, Apple's got much faster processors out there. And so that's why I said at the beginning of the show, this is something I'd love to see Apple take a stab at.
This is the weird thing, is that there's more processing power in my iPad than in that PC laptop.
Much more.
By quite a lot.
Yes.
But Apple is in this weird in-between state where they've got Intel Macs and they've got their own ARM-based iPads. I'm a big fan of the idea. I know Renee Ritchie, who's on Mac Break Weekly with you, is a big fan of the idea of an iBook, which would be an iOS laptop.
Apple has a problem because clearly they don't want to make Macs and they don't want to make Mac OS. But you can't develop for iOS unless you have a Macintosh.
Yeah, exactly.
Once they get, and I think this is coming, Xcode, their development platform
on an iPad,
on iOS, there will be no more Mac OS. Or maybe it'll be a limited specialty product.
I think the Mac is great for what it is, but it's not the future for them.
It makes me sad because I love Mac OS, but notice I'm using more and more Windows machines, mostly because that's where the hardware is exciting.
Well, and Apple's best hardware undoubtedly is on iOS. It's what they're doing on their phones and their iPads.
I got an iPad. It's not enough for me to for my day-to-day, but I think for a lot of people it is.
I'm close. I think that if Apple Apple committed to doing more computery things on iOS, and they're slowly getting there, to build something like, which is why I say an iOS laptop or something like
Put Xcode on there. Maybe this is the form factor.
Just a little bit more functionality in the operating system. The hardware can handle it, right? The hardware can already do it.
Absolutely.
So what are they going to do? We'll see.
I would say in the next 2 years.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah. That Mac Pro that they said might come out in the next couple of years. Wouldn't it be funny if it were running iOS?
No.
The world would just die. It would be all over. All right. It's time, I think, to have a little fun with a call for help.
Oh, excellent.
Let's go to Coppell, Texas. Steve's on the line. Is that how you say it, Steve? Coppell? Coppell? Coppell. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Steve.
Hello, Leo and Jason.
It's great to see you. Welcome to the show. What can we do for you?
I'm really interested in learning how to watch over-the-air television on my MacBook Pro. There seems to be a lot of PC solutions out there, but not a lot of Mac solutions. I can watch it easy enough on my home television, and I'm a cord cutter. There's about 40 local television stations here, including 3 PBS stations that I watch quite frequently, but I don't have a mobile solution.
All right, I have your answer, I think.
Wow. No, you know, it's funny because I had for the longest time.
And I knew you would.
So good to have Jason on. I had for the longest time Elgato's iTV, which was a great USB device. Let Macintoshes watch broadcast TV. They had an antenna and all of that stuff. But Elgato got out of the business.
Yeah, they're doing other stuff now. But there is still some great stuff in the business and some really great companies, including some you may have heard from. So, so I talked to my friend Glenn Fleischman, who writes a regular column at Macworld about answering people's problems, and he just wrote about this. And in fact, he uses this. He has over-the-air TV himself. So you can see Glenn's article at Macworld.
Perfect timing.
So Silicon Dust is the name of the company, and they have a product called the HD Home Run. It's a product line.
I know this. This is a great product.
These are over-the-air tuners. So if you've got an antenna and you can get signals.
And it's got DVR. It has the capability of spreading the signal out through the house.
And they've got a version called the Extend. Most of the over-air signals, or all of the over-air signals of TV are MPEG-2, which is like an old DVD.
Right.
And they're.
First of all, I didn't know that.
It's not very
MPEG-2.
MPEG-2. ATSC, I think, is all MPEG-2.
I did not know that.
Probably needs to be updated. But the HD Home Run Extend has a transcoder in it. So it will turn those all into H.264.
Which is what you want.
Which is what you want, especially on an Apple device. Yeah. So that's the recording side. But the question is, like, what about the software side? What do you attach it to in order for that to work? And there's actually a great new entrant in this, which is Plex. Plex, which we think of as being the place you put files that you've downloaded or ripped from a CD or whatever, DVD. They have a DVR in their subscription plan. And the DVR, the Plex DVR, will talk to the HD Home Run. And basically, you schedule it. It records the shows. You use a web browser to schedule your recordings. And the shows just go into your Plex library. So you don't have to worry about the interface at all. And Plex works on a Mac, in any web browser, pretty much on any device, iOS, Android. You can download the files and view them locally when you're on an airplane. So HD Home Run to record hardware. Plex is the software to run. And then you can watch that stuff anywhere. The only limitation is you can't watch it while it's recording it. For that, you would need a different piece of software. But if you're willing to wait until the show is over to watch it, it will just pop into your Plex library, and it's available from anywhere.
All right. Steve, you may be as confused as I am. Actually, nobody's confused as I am. But let me just back up a little bit. Describe the topology. You use all of this at home?
No, Glenn talked to me about this.
Describe the topology.
Okay,
so you've got your iPad here.
So you've got
Steve wants to watch TV on this.
Let's back it up.
Okay.
You've got an antenna, probably on your roof.
On your roof, you got an antenna.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. You plug in the antenna to the HD Home Run.
Okay.
Which is attached to a Mac.
HD Home Run, and that's somewhere. Oh, it's attached to your Mac.
Attached to your Mac.
It's not a big thing.
It's not a big. It's a little box.
Okay.
You screw in the antenna on the back.
Okay, and then it's connected via what? USB?
I think it's USB to a Mac.
Okay.
And the Mac is running the Plex
This
server.
is the Extend you're saying again?
Yes, the Extend is probably what you want because it's going to transcode it all into H.264 video. It's much smaller files.
And USB's fast enough for this?
Yeah, it is.
So we used to do FireWire because USB, but USB 3 now is so fast. That's probably fast.
Yeah.
So here's a nice topology.
And what you do is
antenna, Home Run, Extend. And then, you could also plug it in your switch.
You can even have it attached to a network.
Oh, that's nice. So then you could make that network available.
Yeah. So what you do is you have a Mac running Plex.
Yep.
Plex
will see all the
and you've got to
stored
subscribe
movies.
to the Plex.
I always think of Plex as like watching the movies I've digitized.
But it will also talk to the tuner and pull those files down and put them in your Plex
So this
library.
is pretty nice. Plex becomes your kind of everything.
It's your software. And
it's your live
you just
TV,
run it.
It's your watching old movies, whatever you've got.
Yeah, so it'll work on an Apple TV. It'll work on pretty much any box you can think of.
You can get Plex on a Roku. You can get Plex on anything.
Exactly right. So that's all as long as you're subscribing to Plex Pass.
How much is Plex Pass?
Pass.
Plex Pass.
But that's easy to say. Plex Pass.
How much is the Plex Pass?
I don't know.
If Peter Piper picked a peck of Plex Passes, how much Plex Pass?
$10 a month, something like that. I don't know what it is, but you do those two things.
There it is. $4.99 a month.
$5 a month. $5 a month.
Or just get $40 a year. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Or if you really love it,
lifetime.
For the lifetime of.
And as long as of Plex.
Yeah, Plex probably. Yeah.
But you do all that, and then the nice thing about this is Plex takes away that you've got to have this weird janky Mac software that somebody wrote at some point and it sort of works with the hardware and all of that.
That's why you want Plex.
Because Plex has actually put the effort into this, and it works with the Silicon Dust receivers.
It's interesting that it was a very competitive environment. You had XBMC and Kodi, and you had all these different tools. Plex has really become the ascendant, dominant platform.
And it's on every platform. That's the beauty of this, is that if you can get this set up, what you'll be able to do is take this and download the files off of Plex to your iPad, or stream them if you're in your local network, but you could also just download them and take them with you. And it should all just work. Glenn famously, won Jeopardy a couple of times. He's a big Jeopardy fan. Mm-hmm. He records Jeopardy over the air every night, and it just pops into his Plex library, and he can watch Jeopardy whenever he wants to. We're all old people. We watch Jeopardy. This is what I'm saying. But
and by the way, I believe you can get a Twit plug-in for Plex as well. So
sure.
You can watch Alex Trebek and Leo Laporte and try to figure out which one's older. We know who's better looking. We know who's...
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do, Leo.
We know Mr. Trebek with the mustache.
The mustache, that puts it over the top.
So does that make sense, Steve? Did you get all that?
It sure does.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen them on Amazon, but I didn't know it would work this way.
Yeah. It's and if you look at the Plex DVR site, it'll list all of the different hardware that it's compatible with. It's compatible with like 5 different ones. But as I said, Glenn looked into this because he needed to record his shows, his Jeopardy, and his other stories. And he really does recommend that HD Home Run Extend, because it's going to get you an H.264 video file that's like the currency of video files. It plays everywhere.
This is really just don't even consider it. There are lots of ways you could try to do this. This is the way to do it.
I think so. And the investment, the box is probably about $175 for the tuner. So it's not cheap, but you buy it once and then it's going to work over the air. It's going to work basically forever. And then Plex, you spend $5 a month, or you buy the annual, or you buy the lifetime, and then you're pretty much set, which is pretty great. And it's fuss. What I like about it is it's fuss free. You just open the Plex app wherever, and your shows are there.
How close to the big city are you, Steve?
I'm just about 10 miles north of DFW Airport.
Perfect. So you get all the Dallas stations, all the Fort Worth stations.
This
you're set. You're close enough that you're getting good over the air.
Yeah. This makes me sad. I'm behind a ridge.
We can't get anything
and I can't see the Sutro Towers.
We get channel 50.
Yeah.
I have an indoor amplified antenna, and I get about 40 channels.
Oh,
jeez.
This is over-the-air TV is to this day the best deal in television.
Yeah.
Not only is it free, it's higher quality HD than you get from any other service.
Hopefully, people who are watching this, who are cord cutters especially, are having their ears perk up a little bit at this, because it's like there are, if you can see more or less the antenna in your city, and in most places they don't have the terrain that we do here in the Bay Area. If you can get that over-the-air signal, all of that stuff, and it's not just the networks. Most of them now have digital sub-channels with all sorts of other things that are like cable networks, except they're over the air, like lots of old TV.
I know curling is huge in Texas. You could watch curling all day if you want.
It's true, the curling channel.
I watch a lot of old movies, and the Munsters, and
that's what I would.
That's the thing. It's all those old TV shows on like Cozy TV, where it's like old MASH reruns and Star Trek and things like that. They're all on there.
You know what? Now that YouTube TV has Turner, by the way, this is the other way to do it with no hardware at all. YouTube TV, it's $40 a month. You get your live locals in most cases. You should check, of course, before you buy it. You get Turner Classic Movies. You get all the sports, all the news channels. It's another way to go that is just software.
Sure.
Right, but then the advantage here is you're not using your internet bandwidth to download it. And I think your over-the-air is going to be less compressed.
It's definitely better quality than anything else. Yeah. Over-the-air is actually, if you got over-the-air, it's funny because I don't think about it because we just can't get it.
We just can't,
I don't spend a lot of time.
Well, it's the channels I watch, and so
exactly.
It was easy to cut the cord.
And it's free, so
and
try the
baseball
Plex
season
DVR.
is coming. You want to see your Rangers? No. Who's your team?
Is that the pointy ball? I'm not sure.
No, that's
See, we're back to sports ball again. Ixnay on the baseball bay, Leo.
Thank you, Steve. Great to talk to you. Take care.
Thank you.
Next week, it's the other Jason. Jason Howell.
See?
We can answer your Android questions.
Jason's all the way down.
Here's how you ask him.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
Let's walk on over to the living room where the fireplace is roaring, keeping us warm. You know, we just had the 4th nor'easter blow through here. Toby.
Oh, then that's right. They're naming them now.
Toby.
Isn't that nice?
I saw somebody put a picture of New England with a picture of Toby from The Office superimposed.
Oh, not from The West Wing. I would have gone with The West Wing.
Toby's the other Toby, but that's because you're a West Wing fan.
Is it? I like The Office too.
I like The Office too. It's funny, Mac people I think really like The West Wing. Why is that? Is that because Aaron Sorkin writes everything on a Mac?
I don't know. That's a weird one. I have not heard that one before.
It's true though. Ask around.
Okay. All right.
You could tell.
I liked it fine.
All it takes is 5 Facebook likes. Let's get our email bag. Before we do, though, I want to talk to you a little bit about Apple's event, which is coming up.
Sure.
Are you going to Chicago?
I am.
Oh, my
gosh. It's a whirlwind tour. Hopefully there won't be
tomorrow,
strong
Tuesday,
wind.
Day after.
Going in Monday night. But yeah, the event's Tuesday morning.
And they're not streaming it, so it's good you're going.
It sounds like they're not. It sounds like they're going to post the video after the fact. But
That's what they said on the Apple webpage.
It's a little weird.
You can watch your event after it's over. Well, they don't have all the gear in Chicago.
Yeah, it may be that there's something. Also, it's on a public school grounds. I wonder if there might be something there regulatory or something. I don't even know.
We were going to cover it, but I don't think I'm going to get up because it's 8 a.m. here. It's 10 a.m. Chicago time.
Right.
I don't think we're going to get up at 8 a.m. just to talk about Jason's live blog.
It's an education announcement, and yeah.
Well, but see, now, is it just an education?
Well, the story they're going to tell is probably education related, but there will be products that are relevant. I mean,
like what? What do you think?
Well, the strongest rumor is for a low-cost iPad, that they'll update the 5th generation iPad to a new model with a lower price. I'm hoping that will also include support for the Apple Pencil, because I think Apple Pencil on iPad is a much better story for education. I think
it's also a reasonable speculation because the invitation was calligraphy.
Exactly right. That is a strong implication there, is that handwriting is a part of this story. And
so,
the lower you can get that iPad price, right now it's $299 for education. It's $319, I believe, for everybody else. So $329, that's right. It's $299 for education. Needs to be lower. Chromebooks are very popular in education. And Apple needs to fix the software side too. They need to be stronger with their classroom stuff. If you talk to any educator who's doing an all iPad setup, if you look at what Google Classroom offers versus what Apple offers, there's kind of no contest right now.
We do know that they have something in iOS 11.3 called Class Kit.
Yes, which will enable app developers to build things like, for example, not letting a student switch out of the app where they're taking their test in order to look up the answer. That's nice.
So I'm sure they'll talk about that. Will they release 11.3 at the event?
They could. It's a Tuesday morning. They could do that. They do like to do that, actually, about 10 a.m. Pacific on a Tuesday morning or a Monday morning. But I think it will be close behind if they don't already release it then.
So probably a less expensive iPad that supports it. Will it be an iPad Pro or will it just support the Pencil?
I think it'll just be the iPad, that low-cost iPad, and ideally support the Pencil support. I think so. The iPad Pro is too pricey for most education needs.
Is there what makes an iPad Pro?
Well, here's the thing.
Besides the Pencil.
When the iPad Pro came out, the Pencil and the Smart Connector with the external keyboard that you could attach, that defined what an iPad Pro was. Because you remember, the iPad Pro, they released the big one, but then they released the one that was the exact same size as the iPad Air. Yeah. But with the iPad Air gone, the new 5th generation iPad is way cheaper. It's sort of rolled back a year in terms of technology.
You're talking about the 10.5?
No, the
iPad.
The iPad, no other name.
We need a name for
the non-Pro iPad. Well, now it's the 9.7. It's the only 9.7-inch iPad because they updated the Pro to be a 10.5 and still the 12.9.
So the Pro line will stay the Pro line.
So what that means is that now the Pro line means a lot of things. The higher refresh rate, the better screen, the faster processor.
None of which you need for a school.
And the bigger screen. All of those things make a difference. So they could put the Pencil on the low-cost iPad without everybody saying, "Oh, I'm confused."
And maybe the Smart Connector, because it's nice to have a keyboard. I mean, I think one of the things that keeps iPads out of schools and Chromebooks in schools is the keypad, the keyboard rather.
Yeah, I really hope Apple commits to building more keyboards for iOS devices. I mentioned an iOS laptop earlier. I would love to see more Apple hardware, or something they've been doing with the iOS stuff lately, working with a partner like Logitech to do, or Kensington.
I have a Logitech Slim Combo
to do some
case.
different keyboard kind of things.
What about the chance that there'll be a MacBook, or we've heard the strongest rumor, a MacBook Air.
Yeah, there are a bunch of rumors out there, none of which make complete sense. So it sounds, the latest from Mark Gurman at Bloomberg is that there's going to be a new MacBook, and it is going to push down toward $999, which is the reason the MacBook Air is still in the price list, is that the Retina MacBooks don't go under $1,000 right now. There's too much profit to be made at $1,299. So
the other advantage a MacBook Air has over a MacBook, and I think it would be important to schools, is ports.
Exactly right. It's multiple and without dongles required, because they're all still standard USB-A ports.
You give kids a dongle,
and the dongle is lost immediately,
it's like
right?
giving a mouse a cookie.
So,
it's not,
so we reference acknowledged. So we, but we have to see if there will even be Mac stuff at this event. And this goes back to what we were saying earlier: is does Apple really feel like, in an education context, the Mac is the story they want to tell, or is it iOS? I would argue that in classrooms, in like K through 12, iOS is probably their strongest play. But in higher ed, I think getting somebody a Mac laptop is still a really common story. And Apple doesn't, to get back to the iOS laptop thing, Apple doesn't have a story for somebody who wants a laptop that revolves around iOS right now. And it might be a year or two before they have something like that.
We will find out Tuesday. We
and early.
won't cover it live, but of course we do iOS Today immediately after the event.
That's going to be a good show.
So I suspect will be the meat of the coverage of iOS Today. And then right after that, Mac Break Weekly. So we'll be talking about whatever Apple does, and I appreciate your look ahead. We'll look forward to it. 6colors.com to see your coverage.
Yeah, we'll do some live tweeting / blogging of it, so people can know what the heck is going on.
I look forward to that. Thank you, Jason.
And then I'll eat some deep dish pizza or something. I don't know. When in Chicago? Put peppers on a hot dog? I don't know.
Where are you going to go? Do you know?
I don't know.
And of course, don't forget, June is WWDC, so there still is another opportunity in just a month, a little more than a month, for Apple to announce something else.
Yeah, that's when we'll probably see maybe iPad Pro, and definitely things like maybe new laptops, maybe that Mac Pro. We'll get some news.
When you talk to Tim, and I know you will, just tell him.
I haven't yet, but
Leo doesn't like the butterfly keyboard. Can you just... one good keyboard. That's all I want. I'm still using a 2015 MacBook Pro because I can't use that.
I think Apple has heard people's complaints about their keyboard.
Louise.
I'm crossing my fingers that the next keyboard will be better than the last two.
Crossing your little stubbed fingers.
I'd rather use, tell me if you agree with this, I'd rather use the smart keyboard that comes with the iPad than the keyboard that's on the MacBook.
Yes.
The little bubble.
I stub my fingers. It's little. There's just hardly any travel. It's just painful to use. It's not right.
I think they've heard this feedback.
It's not right, Apple.
I hope they're listening.
Time for the mailbag. Look at that.
Yep, not a bag. Still not a bag.
Still not a bag. But still loaded with mail. Well, not even really. Just blue printed sheets of paper. So it's a lie all around. I'll start with email number 1.
All right.
Dear new screensavers, I have iPhone 7, and I back up. You notice I didn't use the article.
Oh, yeah, that was very, very Apple of you.
Very Apple-y. I have iPhone 7.
Yeah.
And I back up photos to 4 services. Call me paranoid. I recently discovered what I believe is an issue with Apple's iCloud service. When downloading the same picture, wow, look at these numbers. This guy did some work.
Yeah.
From iCloud, it's 1536 by 2018. But if you get it from Amazon's Prime, it's almost twice that. From Dropbox Photos, almost twice that. Google Photos, almost twice that. 3024 by 4032.
Which is probably the original resolution.
And by the way, Google Photos isn't even a JPEG. It's a high-efficiency image.
Right.
He says hike, but I think it's HEIF.
Well, it's the file, oh boy, the format is HEIF.
HEIF.
But the file itself is
a HEIC?
a HEIC container file. That contains, the HEIF's in the HEIC.
The HEIF's in the HEIC.
Yeah. Just remember that when you need to know the HEIF's in the
pestle, the mortar, the chalice with the palace has the vessel with the
The flange with the cam goes in the groove with the tube. That's just how you...
So his question...
Yes.
Downloading from Google...
What's the deal here?
What's the deal? Downloading from Google provides a file, that HEIC file, I can convert to JPEG. In short, Apple gives me a picture with about half the resolution. Right. What's the deal?
So, it's not entirely true. There are circumstances where Apple degrades the picture.
They always said on my phone that we store the original on iCloud.
They do store the original on iCloud.
So it's full resolution.
Yeah, so you're not actually losing it. This is a good thing for a paranoid person to ask about.
Yeah.
Right? And he said, call me paranoid.
But if you flip that switch that says iCloud Photo Library and you check the optimized checkbox, it says we're going to put optimized images on your phone. That's these lower resolution images because it's
no. Optimized means it'll delete them on your phone if you need space, but they'll always be high quality in the cloud.
But not original in the cloud.
Original in the cloud.
And a reduced quality version on your phone.
No, the version on your phone will be full
the original?
quality. If it's in your iCloud photo library. If you're using a shared album or the old photo stream idea, those are down-resed. And we think that if you look on iCloud.com, those are down-resed. But if you're in the Photos app on Mac or iOS, you get the full resolution file. The only question about file format is there's some compatibility settings. You can say, I want it to be JPEG instead of HEIF, and it'll convert it for you, but they're always going to use the original up in the cloud. It's there, and in most cases, if you're using the Photos app, you'll get it.
Literally, if you check this box, we will always store the original quality photos on the cloud, and we will store lower resolution photos on your phone. It says that. I can prove it.
What you're thinking of is like the thumbnails.
Give me my phone.
But when you tap to open it up, it downloads full quality.
Yes. If you try, yes. Okay, but
but it's downloading the thumbnails, so you can see what they are. You got to see what they are.
Someone with the leather, the pleather with the leather in the chalice with the palace.
But if you tap on it, and open it up. Or
then
like you tap edit and it tries to download it, that's the full quality one.
But
so
if I'm looking at it in the Photos app, and just saying
you can get to the full quality one,
right?
But what it previews
but you have to explicitly download it.
Well, it'll based on your behavior.
So these are low quality thumbnails, but if I click that, it's going to go to the full quality.
Tap that.
That will now become a full quality. Let me pick something that isn't
nice.
Disgusting. This is Lisa and me eating barbecue.
Now let's tap edit.
Oh no! Wait, stop. Oh, you want to see the size?
It's already well, I tapped edit and it didn't download it, so that's already full quality on your phone.
Oh, and of course, there's no button to say what the quality is.
No, because it's Apple. They just do the right thing all the time.
It does say if I tap it, it says original. Okay.
Yeah.
So you could see my confusion because, in fact, it does. Let me.
It's just trying to do the right thing.
Let me just read you what it says.
I think the point for the letter writer is that iCloud does have the original. And if you use the Photos
If your phone
app,
is low on space, full resolution photos and videos are automatically replaced with optimized versions.
Okay.
That's
the low resolution preview, basically.
Full resolution versions are stored in iCloud. Okay, we got that. So,
but it will download those versions on demand if it needs them, like if you're sharing them or editing.
That makes sense. You can get to it, in other words.
Yeah,
and you
it's
haven't
not
lost.
gone anywhere.
It's okay. So don't worry about this.
But it is important to know if you're in a family situation, Apple doesn't do, unlike Google Photos, Apple doesn't do family sharing across accounts other than this family photo library, photo album where you can drag things in.
Right.
And shared albums are low resolution. They're not full resolution. So don't have your significant
that's
other
where you would lose.
Take all. If I said to my wife, all the photos you take, drag them into our shared album, and then I'll import them into mine, and then you can delete them, we will have lost full quality photos.
Don't do that.
So don't do it. Yeah.
And the problem I have is that Apple's basically charging you for iCloud storage. You're going to be paying for the storage if you want to have all your photos up there.
Yes. Whereas Google will give it to you for free,
but
with some limitations, like they're not going to
smaller.
They're going to down res 4K video, and very, very large images will be.
I've noticed the image quality is pretty good, though.
But for most of the things you shoot, it's not going to do anything.
It's fine.
It's just going to store them for free.
Right, and it's free, unlimited. I use Google Photos.
I think this letter writer is very smart, by the way.
He's got 4
to back them up to various services.
Dropbox,
that's actually
Amazon,
that's a really nice. If you've got space on cloud services, or it's something like Google that'll let you just do it. Do it. It's another. It's belt and suspenders,
and
right?
The Google Photos does have a button that you could say delete photos that are backed up. So if you're running out of space,
the problem with Google Photos on iOS is that it isn't always running in the background.
Right. You have to keep it open.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just plug my phone in, set it to not go to sleep, and just leave it overnight on Google Photos, just so it backs up.
And that's a thing that Apple could, that's the home field advantage of Apple.
That's the home field advantage.
Yeah.
Question number 2.
Boy, that was more dramatic than I thought it would be. All right, this is from Kurt, listener Kurt. Hi, Kurt.
Yes.
Thinking of getting.
You know what? This is so confusing, the photos thing. It would be so great if we could do the same thing for Apple Music, because it's very confusing as
here's
well.
some more.
So sometime come back
some
and
more
do
confusion. Thinking of getting a HomePod, but most of my music is from importing my CDs to iTunes. Would subscribing to iTunes Match be a better option than Apple Music when using Siri to play music?
If you are an Apple journalist, you spend
I am. What are the
which
chances?
you happen to be, a disproportionate amount of your time trying to figure out what the hell is going on with Apple Music and then explaining it in common English.
Right, because the way it's explained is, look, it just works. Like that photo thing, right? It just works. And then somebody says, but what's going on behind the scenes? And my answer is, oh boy, okay, let's figure that one out.
You wish you knew. So there's two services Apple sells. Apple Music, which gives you the radio plus, I don't know how many songs.
It's basically every song
8 million songs
that has ever been recorded.
Everything that everybody else offers, like Spotify.
Exactly.
And you can stream it. As long as you continue to pay for this, 45 million songs, wow. As long as you continue to pay for this, you've got access to all
you can eat, yeah.
They also offer a service, which I subscribe to for $25 a year. It's not expensive.
Right.
Where if you do like he does and you rip CDs, it will match them in the cloud. Right?
Yes.
And you can stream those. You can even download them onto your phone if you want. So that becomes part of your library, even if it's, and this is the exception, I think, even if it's not in the Apple Music library, right?
Yes, that's true.
So I have some songs that live performances or whatever. Now, as Jim Dalrymple and others have mentioned, occasionally Apple will get confused.
Yeah. It's gotten better than it was when
I haven't heard any howls from Jim lately.
So if Kurt only really listens to the music that he's ripped, iTunes Match is good because it's cheaper.
And it's all he needs.
And it will work with the HomePod and will work with Siri.
It will.
So those are files that are in the cloud.
Okay.
And so therefore, all your iTunes purchases and anything that you upload or have matched with iTunes Match, it's in your Apple Music Cloud library, basically.
So I could say to my HomePod, hey, Shlomo, listen to Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, not on Apple Music, but I happen to own it, and it's in my cloud, and it would play it.
And it will play it, that's right.
As long as, and this is an issue, that particular HomePod's on my Apple account, not anybody else's.
Right, because it's iTunes Match. Whatever account is on with iTunes Match and is on your HomePod, if those match, then it's in your music cloud.
But if he wants to hear the latest Taylor Swift album and he didn't happen to digitize that or buy that, he could listen to it on Apple Music.
So the thing to know about iTunes Match is that it's included in Apple Music.
Oh, so I shouldn't be paying for it anymore.
So if you are an Apple Music subscriber, like I am, you can drop iTunes Match.
That was not clear.
When Apple Music launched, it was not part of Apple Music. But Apple finally, in the name of simplification, I would argue, because I think it's the right move. It should have been there at the beginning. All of your music that you have. So I've got access to all the millions of Apple Music tracks, as well as everything that I ripped on CDs that is not in Apple Music. So I got my obscure live stuff and that Taylor Swift album.
It would have been nice if Apple would turn off my iTunes Match subscription when I subscribe to Apple Music. They're not going to, because what if I fall off Apple Music?
That's right. That's the issue. Is the one disadvantage is if you drop off of Apple Music,
you're going to have to resubscribe to iTunes Match.
You would have to
before you dropped off,
or those will.
And we actually don't know what'll happen.
No,
that
because
may confuse Apple's computers.
That actually is one of these issues, which was the question was if your Match stuff would download with DRM or not.
Oh.
I think I just invoked Cory Doctorow again. I mentioned DRM.
Because that was one advantage of iTunes Match. It's one way you could sneakily remove any DRM copy protection on your music.
Still is
pay $25, upload everything to the cloud.
If it matches it. It doesn't even upload, right? It just says, oh, you own that now. And that's it. You're done.
Yeah. And then you can delete all the local copies with copy protection, re-download from the cloud, and they will be 256 kilobit AAC files with no DRM. I think your email address is embedded in it, but there's no DRM.
Yeah, exactly right. And in fact, so much so that you could legally, if you, let's say, had a low-resolution MP3 that you got from Napster or something, right?
I had a bunch of 96 kilobit stuff.
It'll match, and then you can download the full quality version, and it's all legal. It's basically amnesty for that by paying for the Match service.
I had a lot of stuff. I don't know where I got 96 kilobit versions of Herman's Hermits, but
anyway, the thing is, iTunes Match is way cheaper than Apple Music. So if all you're doing is listening to the stuff you own, you don't need Apple Music, and you will still be able to take advantage of playing your music on your HomePod.
Here's a little tip. I had some 64 kilobit Herman's Hermits, and iTunes Match would not match that.
Yes, there is a limit.
It said 96 is the limit, so I just up-resed it to 128.
And then it works.
And then it worked.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Not with Herman's Hermits, though. That's crazy.
Mrs. Jones, you've got a lovely daughter. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to have you back once a month to explain Apple's
What is Apple doing? This is how I stay in business, Leo, trying to explain what Apple's doing.
It's not clear. Am I wrong? It's not clear.
It cuts both ways, right? Like they try to keep it simple, but then if you try to go beyond what is simple, you start to wonder what the heck is going on.
What's going on?
That was Marvin Gaye, not Herman's Hermits.
Brother. I got some of that too. That's 128 kilobit. Mr. Jason Snell, you'll find him at sixcolors.com. That's where you get all these explanations.
Yep.
You'll also find half a dozen of his great shows at relay.fm and The Incomparable at theincomparable.com.
That's right.
Is there anything else I should tell people about?
No, you nailed it.
Do you have a URL shortener you'd like to share? Snell.to.
I own sixcolor.rs.
Perfect.
Serbian URLs.
Is it? Is that what the Republic of Serbia?
Yeah.
Do you ever use that?
No, it just redirects.
That's hysterical.
But I just decided I would take it.
I'm changing all my bookmarks to sixcolor.rs.
And if you're in the UK, spell colors with a U. Or in Canada.
It works?
It redirects to...
Oh, you are the smartest person in show business.
That was a much cheaper domain to buy.
.co.uk?
No, the colors, COLOURS.com.
Nobody wanted that.
That one was cheap to buy.
No, because they spelled it wrong.
Sorry, UK.
Sorry,
Canada.
but...
Sorry, Cory Doctorow.
Schedule. Really? We're going to, I think, wrap this thing up because it
feels like it. Yeah.
It feels like it. Mr. Jason Snell, thank you. You know what? Let me shake that paw because I just think you're the greatest. Good luck with your San Francisco Giants football team. I hope they win the world pennant.
I hope they kick a touchdown and
actually, we're going
hit a
to
three-pointer.
a Giants-Dodgers game in a couple of weeks. I'm very excited. Baseball's back, baby. You can watch this show. Don't watch baseball. Watch this show every Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2200 UTC. It's a beautiful day for the screensavers. Let's do 2. No, you're supposed to say no.
You can put that in the bank. Ernie Banks.
Ernie Banks. Wow. Baseball reference. If you don't want to watch live, actually, if you want to be in the studio, that's a good thing too. You could just email tickets@twit.tv, one person today. We'll take anybody. Just one's plenty. One's good. Nice to have you. It's Don from Colorado, right?
Almost Joe.
Joe, Don. Very similar. Baker. 3 letters.
It's an intimate audience today, is what we're saying.
Yeah. He teaches security.
He does?
Yes, he does. And it's great to have you, Joe. Thank you. He did our show open earlier. Tickets at twit.tv. Don't surprise us. You can also subscribe to our newsletter, twit.tv/newsletter. And if you want to download copies of this show, it's legal. Go ahead and go to twit.tv/NSS. We've got audio and video. But you know, the best way to do this, subscribe. That way you get every episode. It's free, and you get every episode automatically the minute it's available. We are so glad you were here. I hope you will come back next Saturday and join us with Jason Howell on the new Screensavers. See you later. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Woo! Woo! Go Don Baker. Whatever happened, Jason?